At the end of September 1520, Prince Suleiman, serving as governor of Manisa, received a letter bearing the news of his father's death. Without delay, he set out for the capital, Constantinople, to claim his father's throne. But what events had led him to this moment? In 1509, a violent earthquake struck Constantinople. At that time, people interpreted natural disasters as signs of divine wrath, punishment for disobedience to religious law, moral decline, or God's displeasure with the reigning monarch. The lack of effective relief efforts after the quake, combined with heavier taxation, stirred unrest among the people. For the first time, the authority of the aging Sultan Bayezid II appeared weakened and open to question. Meanwhile, to the east, Shah Ismail, who had swept away the Ark Koyunlu state, was rising in prominence. His charisma was immense. Among the Turkmen of central and northern Anatolia, Shah Ismail appeared an attractive alternative to the increasingly centralized Ottomans, who were excluding them from power. Moreover, Ismail's vision of Islam resonated more closely with them. The Ottomans upheld a rigid Sunni orthodoxy, while Ismail and his followers leaned toward Shia belief. His victories in Iran expanded his economic might and fueled a saying among the Anatolian Turkmen, "He who joins the Shah becomes a chieftain." Recognizing the abundance of manpower in Anatolia, Shah Ismail looked westward with great interest. For the Ottomans, this was deeply troubling. Not only the loss of subjects and soldiers, but also the rise of a powerful eastern rival capable of plunging their realm into crisis, as Timur once had. Yet the response from Constantinople was feeble. Sultan Bayezid, elderly and ill, was losing his grip on power with each passing year. Within the Ottoman dynasty, all of a sultan's male children were considered equal. There was no fixed law of succession, and a father's preference offered little guarantee. Typically, a prince could claim the throne only with the support of bureaucrats, clerics, and the army. Upon reaching maturity, princes were assigned governorships in Anatolia, where they gained administrative experience until their father's death. To favor his chosen heir, the reigning sultan might place him in a province close to the capital, allowing a rapid march to Constantinople when the throne became vacant. The first prince to reach the city, if he could secure recognition, could then use the bureaucracy, the army, and the treasury to eliminate his rivals. According to Ottoman law, a sultan was permitted to execute his brothers and sons for the sake of the state's survival. Thus, when a sultan grew old or infirm, his sons often began political or military maneuvers even before his death to prevent a brother from seizing the throne by fait accompli. And so, with the ailing Sultan Bayezid II nearing the end of his reign, rivalry among his sons flared into open contest. Prince Korkut, governor of Antalya, was popular among sailors, but his lack of a male heir weakened his standing in the capital. Prince Ahmed, governor of Amasya, emerged as the favorite of the political elite and much of public opinion after the death of his elder brother Abdullah. Prince Selim, governor of Trabzon, had earned renown as a fierce warrior through raids against the Georgians, and he enjoyed strong backing from the soldiers. The crisis began when Selim sought a governorship for his son, Suleiman. Selim had long complained about the harsh geography and constant frontier struggles of Trabzon, and asked his father to reassign him, but Bayezid had dismissed these requests. Now Selim used his son as the pretext to push again. The central government offered Suleiman certain provinces, but Selim rejected them, calling the territories poor in revenue, difficult in terrain, and depopulated due to Turkmen migrations to Shah Ismail's domains. Prince Ahmed intervened, lobbying Bayezid to keep his nephew Suleiman away from any governorship near the capital. He even opposed the newly proposed province of Bolu. Balancing his son's interests, Bayezid assigned Bolu to Ahmed's son and gave Suleiman the governorship of Kafeh in Crimea. At that very moment, another earthquake struck, and Bayezid's health declined further, throwing fuel onto the fire. Ahmed marched from Amasya toward Ankara. Korkut left Antalya and advanced to Manisa. Selim, under the pretext of either visiting his son or escorting him to his new governorship, set sail from Trabzon with 56 small ships. On October 10, 1510, he reached Kafeh, where he was received by the Crimean Khan. This development provided Selim's opponents in the capital with a powerful argument. In Bayezid's presence, they denounced Selim, claiming he disregarded imperial decrees and harbored ambitions of independence. Realizing his weakness within the bureaucracy, Selim sought to strengthen his position by forging ties with the Crimean Khan and the beys of Rumelia. This alarmed the viziers, who pressured Bayezid to send Selim back to Trabzon. When Selim, still in Kafeh, attempted to mount a campaign against the Circassians, Bayezid immediately ordered him to return to his province. When Selim ignored this, the Sultan rebuked him harshly. "Are you now my partner on the throne?" Selim replied, "If you forbid me from waging holy war, then at least grant me a governorship in Rumelia. I shall obey your command there and find solace in it." As the matter escalated, Bayezid dispatched the renowned scholar Molla Sarigorez Nureddin to Kafeh in hopes of persuading his son, but to no avail. The viziers then offered Selim the governorship of Mola, yet he refused, again demanding a province in Rumelia. His reasoning was also shaped by the rebellion then raging in Antalya, the Shahkulu revolt waged by Turkmen adherents of Shah Ismail. Selim watched the uprising from afar, gauging how his brothers would respond. Their inevitable exhaustion, he knew, would serve his cause. Prince Ahmed initially concerned himself with Selim's position, but the Shahkulu revolt forced him to divert his attention. Bayezid, caught between his rebellious son and the mounting unrest, finally informed Selim he could choose any province in Anatolia. Selim, however, declared that his true desire was simply to see his father after so many years and receive his blessing. On the 10th of May 1511, Selim departed Kafeh. Backed by Crimean forces, he set his small army aboard 100 ships and 7 galleys, and sailed first to Akerman before marching toward Edirne. Bayezid advanced to Çukurçayırı to confront him. Selim repeatedly sent messages pleading for an audience with his father. Eventually, through negotiations once more with Molla Sarigorez Nureddin, an agreement was reached. Selim was appointed governor of Semendire in the Balkans, with leave to raid Hungarian lands. Bayezid, however, made it clear he would never abdicate in favor of any of his sons while he yet lived. Distrustful, Selim advanced slowly toward his new post, carefully watching events unfold. Meanwhile, the Grand Vizier Hadim Ali Pasha was killed while attempting to suppress the Shahkulu revolt. Rumours spread that Bayezid was now preparing to march on Constantinople and place Prince Ahmed in his stead. Convinced he had been cast aside in the struggle for the throne, Selim marched on Edirne with some 20,000 men. He seized the city and pursued his father as far as Çorlu, where the two armies stood face to face. Selim had no wish to fight his father. His aim was to demonstrate strength and prove himself a formidable contender. But Bayezid was unmoved and ordered his troops to attack. The disciplined royal forces broke Selim's hastily gathered army. His Tatar allies attempted their customary encirclement tactics, but failed. Ottoman artillery and musket fire shattered the Tatar cavalry. Defeated, Selim retreated swiftly, returning to Kafeh by August 1511. At this time, Prince Ahmed failed to suppress the Shahkulu rebellion, while Prince Korkut abandoned Antalya for Manisa, and likewise took no action against the uprising. Their inaction deeply shook confidence in both princes at the imperial centre. When Ahmed learned that his brother Selim had fled back to Kafeh, he insisted on coming to his father's side and was invited to Constantinople. Ahmed advanced as far as Üsküdar, directly across from the capital. The Janissaries, the elite corps loyal to the Sultan, convened a council. They judged Ahmed a failure, incapable even of quelling the Shahkulu revolt, and therefore unfit to rule. By contrast, Selim's reputation as a warrior, his victories against the Georgians, had convinced them that only he could stand against Shah Ismail. The Janissaries rose in revolt to block Ahmed's entry into the city. They plundered the homes of his supporters and threatened the Sultan, demanding that Ahmed be turned back. Receiving word of this, Ahmed quickly retreated to Konya, where he established himself and began to act like an independent ruler. Selim, in contrast, humbled himself before his father, seeking to win back his favor. Soon, the Janissaries stormed the imperial divan, declaring to Bayezid, "You can no longer rule. We need a sultan, and so we have made Prince Selim our sultan." Pressured by this outcry, Bayezid summoned Selim to the capital in April 1512, now charging him with removing the rebellious Ahmed. Meanwhile, Prince Korkut entered Constantinople to test the mood of the Janissaries. Realizing they stood firmly behind Selim, he accepted that he could not hope to ascend the throne. He claimed he had come only out of fear of his elder brother Ahmed. Selim advanced from Achaemen toward Constantinople. Bayezid resisted the idea of abdicating, but the Janissaries escalated their pressure, openly threatening the aging monarch. Still, Bayezid clung to the throne, insisting he would remain until death. Anxiously, he asked his viziers whether the soldiers would harm him if he refused to comply. They replied, "No, they will not kill you, but they will seize your robe with the point of a spear and pull you down from the throne." Resigned, Bayezid agreed to step aside. The Janissaries relayed the news at once to Selim, who remained uncertain, doubting the reliability of the reports. Finally, a council was convened. Selim appeared before his father. Bayezid asked first if Selim would accept command of a campaign to the east without being sultan. Selim replied that the soldiers would only march under their sovereign. Bayezid, understanding his authority was exhausted, yielded the throne. Thus, on the 24th of April 1512, Selim became sultan. Bayezid, grieving at his deposition and weakened by illness, left the capital for Dimitoka to live in retirement. Yet only weeks later, on the 10th of June 1512, he died at Hafsa. Whether his death came by natural causes or through poison administered at the order of his son remains uncertain, but the outcome undeniably favored Selim, who was preparing for further struggles with his brothers. Prince Korkut returned to Manisa. Prince Ahmed, meanwhile, continued to act as sovereign from Konya, even dispatching his son to seize Bursa. When that attempt failed, Ahmed withdrew to Afyon. Selim resolved to remove him once and for all. He summoned his son Suleiman from Kefeh to Constantinople, appointing him as regent in his stead. Once Suleiman arrived, Selim marched out. He dispatched a Janissary corps toward Bursa via Mudanya. Ahmed, feeling unsafe at Afyon, pulled back to Ankara, then to Amasya, though he was barred from entering the city. Selim advanced to Ankara. Ahmed briefly considered fleeing to Egypt, but later sent word that he recognized Selim's authority and requested the governorship of Karaman. Selim replied that if his brother wished to remain within Ottoman lands, he would support him, but he could not grant him a province. Believing Ahmed had departed the empire, Selim withdrew to Bursa for the winter. Yet news soon arrived that Ahmed had seized Amasya. In retaliation, Selim ordered the execution of Ahmed's children in Bursa. Convinced of his brother's intentions, Selim now resolved to eliminate Korkut as well. He marched on Manisa, besieging him there. Selim besieged Korkut in Manisa, but his brother escaped. Later, hiding in a cave, Korkut was captured and executed. With him gone, only Ahmed remained as a rival to Selim. Ahmed was deceived by forged letters sent by Selim's supporters, inviting him to seize the throne. Believing the time was right, Ahmed set out. His intention was to march toward Konya, where his followers were strongest. Yet suddenly he changed direction, heading instead for Ankara. With some 20,000 men, he descended upon Eskişehir. Selim responded immediately. He ordered his son Suleiman to establish a camp near Constantinople, ready to safeguard the capital. On the 15th of April 1513, battle was joined. Ahmed's forces collapsed swiftly. He was captured and executed. In the aftermath, Selim ordered the deaths of Ahmed's surviving sons. With his rivals gone, the throne was secure. Now, at last, Selim was free to pursue the Eastern question he had long desired to settle. On the 20th of March 1514, he marched from Edirne toward Constantinople. Suleiman was summoned from Manisa and left behind as regent. At the same time, Selim imposed a trade embargo on the Safavids, forbidding the entry of Persian silk into Western markets. Then he marched east. As the Ottoman army advanced through Anatolia, Selim ordered the execution of Shah Ismail's supporters. By the 14th of July 1514, the army reached Erzincan. Yet Shah Ismail's forces remained invisible, drawing the Ottomans ever deeper into Iran. The soldiers, unaccustomed to the harsh terrain, suffered shortages of supplies and clothing. Finally, on 23 August 1514, the two armies met at Chaldiran. Shah Ismail was defeated. Militarily, the battle was not a flawless triumph, but psychologically it was devastating. Ismail's aura of invincibility was shattered. The belief that the Shah is a savior faded, and the flow of Turkmen migrants from Anatolia into Iran nearly ceased. After Chaldiran, Shah Ismail withdrew from active politics. For the Ottomans, this was more than a battlefield victory. It was an ideological triumph, a demonstration of supremacy before the entire Islamic world. On the 6th of September 1514, Selim entered Tabriz. He intended to winter there, but protests from his viziers and soldiers forced him to turn back. On the 24th of November, he reached Amasya and spent the winter in Anatolia. In April 1515, he marched again. The Dulkadarids, who had resisted Ottoman authority, were crushed at the Battle of Turnadar. By the 11th of July 1515, Selim had returned to Constantinople. In 1516, Selim launched a campaign to bring the Eastern problem to a decisive close. Departing on the 5th of June, he advanced while news arrived that the Mamluks were massing troops in Syria. Sultan Kansu al-Ghauri himself had marched to Aleppo. At Koçhisar, the Safavids, then allied with the Mamluks, were defeated by the Ottomans. This altered the course of the campaign. When Ghauri demanded Marash and its surroundings from Selim, the insult was intolerable. Selim humiliated the Mamluk envoy, shaving his beard, cutting his hair, and sending him back on a donkey. On the 5th of August, Selim marched from Malatya toward Aleppo. On 24th August 1516, the armies clashed at Majd-Dabik. The Ottomans won a crushing victory. Ghauri fell from his horse and died in battle. Selim pressed on. Crossing the Syrian desert, he defeated Mamluk forces twice more, at Gaza and at Ridaniya. On the 24th of January 1517, he entered Cairo, bringing the Mamluk Sultanate to an end. For the sake of stability, Selim did not purge the Mamluk emirs. Those who pledged loyalty to him retained their positions. On the 25th of July 1518, Selim returned to Constantinople. From there, he moved on to Edirne, sending his son back to Manisa. In April 1519, the Sultan returned once again to Constantinople and ordered preparations for the fleet to be completed. The target was believed to be Rhodes, the greatest obstacle along the sea route between Constantinople and Egypt. Yet it was well known that Selim himself was not eager for such a campaign. When several of his viziers opposed the expedition, Selim grew frustrated and angry. Abandoning the plan altogether, he departed for Edirne on the 18th of July 1520. During the journey, an abscess on his back worsened. Near Chorlu, he could no longer move. On the night of 21st to 22nd September 1520, Sultan Selim died. The news was kept secret. Grand Vizier Piri Mehmed Pasha entrusted Suleiman Aga, the Kethuda, to deliver word swiftly to Prince Suleiman in Manisa. With no surviving brothers to challenge him, Suleiman acted at once. The Sultan's death remained concealed until Suleiman's arrival. At first, the prince hesitated, but after receiving confirmation from several sources, he set out. In Constantinople, small riots and looting broke out when whispers of the death spread. On the 30th of September 1520, Prince Suleiman arrived at Üsküdar. He descended to the lodge of Ibrahim Aga, where the soldiers who greeted him swore allegiance. Crossing by boat into Constantinople, Suleiman immediately ordered that his father's body be brought to the capital. The next day, Selim's funeral was held, and Suleiman presented himself before the imperial divan. Soon after, the enthronement ceremony was performed. Thus began the reign of Suleiman, heir to the expanded empire his father had left behind. Suleiman himself had not been the main actor in these bloody struggles. Yet all that he had seen and endured during these years would shape his politics, his vision, and the course of his life.